My bank's SMS notification, unusual activity detected on your account, should have been my first indication that something was seriously off. However, I was too preoccupied with client meetings and spreadsheets at work to give it more than a passing glance. That message signaled the end of my previous existence and the beginning of something I never believed I could do. My name is Gemma. Hey, you okay? Tiffany peeked into my desk during work. You look like you've seen a ghost. My palm trembled as I gazed at my phone. There is nothing in my account. Each and every dime. My emergency money, my savings, everything. What? How is it even possible? With a worried expression on her face, Tiffany drew up a chair. I muttered, "Mom," as the revelation struck me like a kick to the stomach. We had a joint account when I was in college, so she must have gained access to it somehow. I didn't ever shut it. Call her, Tiffany urged, squeezing my shoulder. I did. The call went straight to voicemail, again and again. I have to go home, I said, grabbing my purse. Something's not right. The drive home was a blur. When I pulled into the driveway of our family house, I noticed Mom's car was gone. The front door was locked, but everything inside looked normal at first. Then I saw the note on the kitchen counter, written in her flowing handwriting. Dearest Gemma, by the time you read this, I'll be overseas. I'm sorry, but I needed a fresh start. You'll understand someday. Love, Mom. I crumpled the note in my fist, tears burning my eyes. Understand? Understand? I screamed at the empty house. My phone buzzed unknown number. Hello, is this Gemma Myers? A man's voice asked. Yes, who's this? Felix Anderson, your grandmother Talia's attorney. I've been trying to reach you. I'm sorry to inform you that your grandmother passed away last week. The room spun. Grandma Talia, the only person who ever stood up to Mom, who taught me to be strong, gone. There are some urgent matters regarding her estate that we need to discuss, Felix continued. Would you be able to come to my office tomorrow? Yes, I can do that. After hanging up, I sank to the kitchen floor, hugging my knees to my chest. A shadow fell across me. I came as soon as I could, Gideon said, crouching beside me. My old high school friend, always there when I needed him. Tiffany called, said you might need backup. She took everything, every cent I had. My voice cracked. And now Grandma Talia's gone too. He sat next to me, our shoulders touching. Remember when your mom convinced you to skip college and join her business venture instead? And Talia was the one who stepped in. I nodded, wiping my eyes. Paid for my first semester herself. Told me to never let anyone steal my dreams. Your mom's been playing these games your whole life, Gem. The guilt trips, the manipulation, the borrowed money that never got repaid. I thought she'd changed, I whispered. She seemed different lately, more stable. We were finally building a real relationship. My phone buzzed again, a text from Devin at work. Hey, your mom just emailed the office saying you're taking a leave of absence for a family emergency. Everything okay? Oh my God, I showed Gideon the message. She's covering her tracks, making sure no one questions why I might not be around for a few days. She planned this. Gideon said, his voice hard, all of it. Getting close to you again, gaining your trust, just so she could clean you out. The numbness was wearing off, replaced by something darker, something that scared me a little. What are you thinking? Gideon asked, studying my face. I stood up, straightening my shoulders. I'm thinking about what Grandma Talia always said. Sometimes the best revenge is letting karma do its job. But you know what? Maybe karma needs a little help sometimes. Gem, no, listen. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Grandma's lawyer. Whatever she left me in her will, it's a start. Mom thinks she's won. She has no idea what's coming. Gideon stood too, concern written across his features. Just be careful. Revenge has a way of changing people. I'm already changed, I said, looking around the house that held so many memories of manipulation and lies. And maybe that's exactly what I needed. My phone buzzed one final time, another bank alert. Mom had just used my card at an airport in Singapore. Game on, mother. Game on. Felix's office felt too warm, despite the autumn chill outside. I fidgeted in the leather chair, watching him sift through a stack of documents. Before we begin, he said, adjusting his glasses, I want to express my condolences. Talia was more than just a client to me. She was a dear friend. Thank you, I managed, my throat tight. I still can't believe she's gone. She spoke of you often. Felix pulled out a thick envelope. In fact, you were her primary concern during our last meeting. The door opened, and Tiffany slipped in, mouthing, "Sorry I'm late," as she took the seat beside me. I'd asked her to come for moral support, knowing I couldn't face this alone. As you know, Felix continued, your grandmother was a shrewd businesswoman. The boutique hotel chain she built is now valued at approximately $12 million. My head snapped up. $12 million. And that's just the hotels. He slid a document across the desk. There's also her personal estate, investment portfolio, and various properties. Tiffany grabbed my hand under the desk as Felix laid out the details. The numbers made my head spin. She left everything to you, Gemma, every asset, every property, every penny. But what about Mom? The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Felix's expression hardened. Talia was explicit about Elizabeth's exclusion from the will. She said, and I quote, "My daughter has taken enough." A laugh bubbled up in my throat, slightly hysterical. Mom's going to lose it when she finds out. She already knows, Felix said quietly. She's been calling my office daily, threatening to contest the will from Singapore. I muttered, how convenient. There's something else. Felix reached into his desk drawer. Talia left this for you. She said I should give it to you privately. He handed me an old leather journal. Inside, Grandma's familiar handwriting filled the pages. I'll give you a moment, Felix said, standing. Tiffany, would you mind helping me gather some paperwork from the other room? Once they left, I opened the journal to a marked page. My dearest Gemma, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I've watched you grow into a strong, capable woman, despite Elizabeth's best efforts to keep you dependent on her. The fortune I've left you isn't just money, it's freedom. Use it wisely and remember, sometimes the best way to deal with a snake is to let it think it's winning until it can't escape the trap it's set for itself. All my love, Grandma Talia. My hands trembled as I closed the journal. The door opened, and Tiffany returned alone. You okay? She asked, sitting beside me. She knew, I whispered. Somehow, Grandma knew Mom would try something like this. What are you thinking? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a notification and email from Mom. Darling, I know you must be upset, but I had no choice. The opportunity was too good to pass up. Once my investment pays off, I'll pay back double, I promise. And I heard about your grandmother. I'm so sorry. We should talk about the will. Call me. Love, Mom. She's unbelievable, Tiffany breathed, reading over my shoulder. She steals your money and still thinks she deserves part of the inheritance. I stood up, pacing the office. You know what's crazy? Part of me still wants to believe her. That's how good she is. Even now, she almost has me convinced. So what's the play? A plan was forming in my mind, crystal clear and terrifying. We let her think she's winning. Tell Felix to let it slip that I'm considering sharing the inheritance. Gemma, Mom wants to come home. Fine, let's give her something to come home to. I picked up Grandma's journal, a trap of her own making. Felix returned with a stack of papers, ready to sign the transfer documents. Actually, I said, sitting down, I have some questions about property management. Specifically about making someone think they have access to assets they don't actually control. Felix raised an eyebrow. I assume this has something to do with Elizabeth. Let's just say I'm taking Grandma's advice about handling snakes. As I signed document after document, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt, betrayed daughter was fading. replaced by someone stronger, someone who'd learned from the best about how to play the long game. One more thing, Felix said as we finished. Your grandmother left instructions about the master suite at the main house. She said you'd know what to do with it. When the time came, I smiled, remembering the room Mom had always coveted but Grandma never let her use. Oh, I know exactly what to do with it, I thought. Mom's going to love it right up until she doesn't. You're going to let her stay in the master suite. Tiffany nearly choked on her coffee. We were sitting in my new office at the hotel's headquarters, surrounded by boxes I hadn't unpacked yet. The same woman who just cleaned out your bank account? That's exactly why it's perfect. I pulled up the security camera feed on my laptop, showing the luxurious room. Grandma had cameras installed everywhere after Mom's last attempt to borrow her jewelry. Devious, Tiffany grinned. I like it. A knock at the door interrupted us. Gideon walked in, carrying a stack of files. Your mother's been busy, he said, dropping them on my desk. I had my friend at the bank pull her transaction history. I flipped through the papers, my jaw tightening. First-class tickets, luxury hotels, shopping sprees. She's burning through my savings like it's nothing. There's more, Gideon said, pointing to a highlighted entry. She's been making calls to real estate agents here in town. She's planning to come back sooner than you think. I said, turning my laptop around to show them an email I just received. Dearest Gemma, I've had time to think about my actions, and I realize I've made terrible mistakes. I'm coming home next week. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope we can talk. I heard you've inherited Talia's estate. Perhaps we could discuss it over dinner. Love, Mom. Wow, Tiffany said. She's not even trying to hide her intentions. Perfect. I opened my calendar. Time to set the stage. Gideon, can you help me with something? He raised an eyebrow. Depends. Is it legal? Mostly. I smiled. I need you to pick Mom up from the airport next week. Make it seem like I'm too busy with the hotels to come myself, and then bring her to the house. Tiffany caught on, where everything will be set up just the way she expects. Rich daughter ready to be manipulated again. Exactly. I pulled out Grandma's journal. But first, we need to make some changes to the master suite. Over the next week, we transformed the room into a perfect trap. Every luxury item was cataloged and photographed. Every drawer had a hidden camera. Every safe was rigged to record when it was opened. The tracking software is installed, Devin announced, closing his laptop. I'd brought him in for his expertise, swearing him to secrecy. Any email she sends or receives from the house network will be forwarded to you. You're scary good at this, Gideon observed, watching me arrange expensive-looking costume jewelry in the suite safe. I learned from the best, I said, thinking of all the times I'd watched Mom manipulate people. She taught me everything I know about deception. Time to show her what a good student I've been. My phone buzzed a text from Felix. Elizabeth's lawyer called. She's withdrawing her challenge to the will. Of course she is, Tiffany said, reading over my shoulder. Why fight for crumbs when she thinks she can get the whole cake? That evening, as we finished the preparations, Gideon pulled me aside. Are you sure about this? It's not too late to back out. I looked around the room that would become Mom's gilded cage. You know what she said when I got into college. Why waste time studying when you could be helping me with my business? She convinced me to give her my tuition money. If Grandma hadn't stepped in. I remember, he said softly. You were a mess that year. She's never faced consequences. Not real ones. She just moves on to her next target, her next scheme. Not this time. My phone chimed with a flight confirmation. Mom would land tomorrow morning. Places everyone? I announced. Time for the final touches. We worked late into the night, setting up the last details. A closet full of designer clothes, all tagged with security sensors. A jewelry box filled with pieces that would test her self-control. Bank statements accidentally left visible on the desk, showing accounts she'd never be able to access. One last thing, I said, placing Grandma's old silver mirror on the vanity. Mom had always coveted it. She tried to steal it twice now. It would serve as the perfect bait. As everyone left, Tiffany hugged me tight. You know she's going to try to turn this around on you, right? Make you feel guilty. I'm counting on it. I locked the suite door. That's how I know the plan will work. Mom can't resist playing the victim right up until she goes for the kill. Later, alone in my apartment, I watched the security feeds one last time. Everything was perfect. Every detail calculated to appeal to Mom's greed and manipulation. Game on, Mother, I whispered to the empty room. Let's see how you like being the one who's played. I watched through the security feed as Gideon's car pulled into the driveway. Mom stepped out, looking exactly as I remembered. Designer sunglasses, perfectly styled hair, and an expression of practiced remorse. Showtime, I muttered, heading downstairs to meet her. The front door opened. Gemma, darling. Mom rushed forward, arms outstretched. She smelled of expensive perfume and false promises. I let her hug me, keeping my arms loose at my sides. Welcome back, Mom. Oh, sweetheart, I've missed you so much. She pulled back, tears glistening. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I was desperate. If you'll just let me explain. Not now, I cut her off, watching Gideon bring in her luggage. You must be tired from your flight. Let me show you to your room. Her eyes lit up as we climbed the stairs. The master suite, but that was always Talia's. It's mine now, I said, unlocking the door, and I want you to have it. Mom stepped inside, her mask slipping for a moment as she took in the opulent surroundings, the antique furniture, the silk drapes, the gleaming vanity with Grandma's silver mirror. It's perfect, she breathed, running her fingers along the mahogany dresser. Just perfect. There's more. I opened the walk-in closet. I had some clothes brought in for you, and the safe is stocked with jewelry you can borrow for special occasions. Her eyes darted to the safe, then back to me. You're too generous, darling. After everything I've done, family is family, I said, the words tasting bitter. Besides, Grandma would have wanted us to reconcile. About the inheritance, Mom started, sitting on the plush bed. I know I have no right to ask, but let's discuss it over dinner. I interrupted. I have a meeting now, but I'll be back around 7. The house is yours. Make yourself at home. As I turned to leave, she caught my hand. Gemma, wait. I really am sorry about the money, about everything. I'll make it right, I promise. I squeezed her hand, remembering all the other promises she'd made and broken. I know you will, Mom. I know you will. Downstairs, Gideon was waiting by his car. She bought it, hook, line, and sinker. I pulled out my phone, opening the security app. Mom was already exploring the room, examining everything. Look, she's testing the safe's combination. Subtle, he snorted. Want me to stick around? No go, but keep your phone on. Phase 2 starts tonight. Back at my office, Tiffany and Devin were monitoring the feeds. She's been in and out of that safe 6 times, Devin reported. And she's already tried to access your email on the laptop you left in the room. Any calls? I asked, settling behind my desk. 3, Tiffany said. All to her old real estate agent. Looks like she's planning to stay. Perfect. I pulled up the fake bank statements we'd prepared. Time to give her something to really think about. Send these to the printer in her room. We watched as the printer whirred to life. Mom practically pounced on the documents, her eyes widening as she read the figures. God, she's not even trying to hide her greed, Tiffany muttered. She thinks she doesn't have to, I said. In her mind, I'm still that naive girl who handed over her college fund. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Darling, could we move dinner earlier? There's so much I want to discuss. Here we go, I said, showing them the message. Everyone ready for phase 2. Devin grinned, pulling up the surveillance software. Cameras rolling, audio crystal clear. You move, boss, I texted back. Of course, Mom. 5:30 at the house. I'll bring takeout. Her response was immediate. Perfect. And darling, thank you for giving me another chance. You won't regret it. Oh, but you will, I whispered, watching her PR in front of Grandma's mirror. You definitely will. Gemma, Gideon's voice was soft. You still have time to stop this. I thought of my empty bank account, of years of manipulation and lies, of Grandma's words in her journal. Let it think it's winning. No, I said, straightening my shoulders. She needs to learn. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from the people we've hurt the most. On the screen, Mom was already plotting her next move, unaware that every gesture, every word, every scheme was being recorded. The trap was set, and she'd walked right into it. Dinner would be interesting indeed. The dining room felt smaller with Mom sitting across from me, picking at her pad thai. She changed into one of the designer outfits from the closet, a silk blouse that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. The hotels are doing so well, she said casually, steering the conversation where she wanted it. Talia always had a gift for business. Like mother, like daughter, I suppose. Like grandmother, like granddaughter, I corrected, watching her face tighten for a split second. Of course, darling. Though, I did learn quite a bit about hotel management during my time abroad. If you ever need help, my phone buzzed a text from Devon. She's been Googling how to transfer property titles between family members. Actually, I said, setting down my fork, I could use your help with something. The Richardson account needs attention, and I'm swamped. Mom's eyes lit up. The Richardson account, one of our biggest clients. The paperwork's in my study. Want to take a look? She practically jumped from her chair. Lead the way, darling. In the study, I pulled up fake financial documents on my laptop. Mom leaned over my shoulder, her perfume almost suffocating. See these figures? I pointed to inflated numbers. They're interested in expanding their partnership. Fascinating, she breathed, already calculating percentages in her head. With my experience. A crash from upstairs interrupted her. We both looked up. Probably just the wind, I said, hiding my smile. Right on schedule. Gideon, I should check my window, Mom said quickly. I think I left it open. Of course, take your time. The moment she left, I pulled up the security feed on my phone. Mom rushed into the master suite, making a beeline for Grandma's silver mirror. She ran her hands along the frame, finding the hidden compartment we'd planted. Got you, I whispered as she pulled out the fake documents we'd stashed there, confidential hotel contracts showing massive upcoming deals. My phone buzzed again, Tiffany this time. Your mother just tried to email photos of the contracts to someone. Caught in our filter. Perfect. Mom returned, looking flushed but triumphant. Everything's fine upstairs. Now about the Richardson account. Actually, I'm feeling tired. I faked a yawn. Rain check. Of course, darling. You work too hard. She kissed my cheek. I think I'll make some calls, catch up with old friends. Old friends like Marcus? I asked innocently, naming her former partner in crime. She froze for a microsecond. I haven't spoken to Marcus in years. Funny, because he called the office today. Something about a business proposition. Mom's mask slipped slightly. Did he? Well, I'm sure it's nothing important. Later that night in my apartment, I watched the security feeds with Gideon. Mom was making call after call, her excitement barely contained. She's already trying to set up meetings with potential investors, Gideon said, scrolling through her intercepted emails, using the fake contracts as bait, just like she did in Singapore. I leaned back, exhausted. Same script, different players. Gemma. Gideon touched my arm. I saw how you flinched when she hugged you. This is taking a toll. I'm fine. No, you're not. You're turning into her. The words hit like a slap. I am nothing like her. No, setting elaborate traps, playing mind games? What happens when this is over? She needs to learn, but at what cost to you? He turned my chair to face him. I've known you since high school, Jem. This isn't you. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with an alert. Mom was in the study, trying to access my computer. I have to go, I said, standing. Gemma, wait. Gideon caught my hand. Just remember who you are. Don't let revenge change that. I pulled away, but his words followed me down to my car. On the drive to the house, I thought about Grandma's journal, about karma and consequences. Mom was back in her room when I arrived, looking as innocent as a lamb, but the security logs told a different story. Attempted computer access, photographed documents, suspicious phone calls. Everything okay? She called out as I passed her door. Perfect, I replied, thinking of the trap closing around her step by step. Everything's just perfect. But later, lying in bed, Gideon's words echoed in my head. This isn't you. Maybe not, but then again, maybe this was exactly who I needed to be to finally break free from her web of manipulation. Tomorrow would bring phase 3, and then we'd see who had learned the better lessons about deception. She's meeting with investors today, Devin announced, bursting into my office. 3 of them at the Blue Lotus restaurant. I glanced at my watch. Right on schedule. Is everything set up? Tiffany's already there with the hidden camera. And guess who else showed up? He slid his phone across my desk, showing security footage from the restaurant's entrance. Your old friend Marcus. My stomach tightened at the sight of Mom's former partner, the man who'd helped her con so many people before. She's really getting the band back together. Want me to call it off? Devin asked. This is getting serious. No, I stood up, grabbing my coat. This is exactly what we need. Send me the live feed. The Blue Lotus was packed when I arrived, but I spotted Mom immediately at a corner table, holding court with 4 well-dressed people. Marcus sat beside her, looking exactly as sleazy as I remembered. Table for 1, the hostess asked. Actually, I'm meeting someone. I headed toward the bar, where Tiffany sat, nursing a martini, her phone propped up to record the meeting. You won't believe what they're promising these people, she whispered as I slid onto the stool beside her. 5-star hotels at 3-star prices. Guaranteed returns of 30%. Just like Singapore, I muttered, watching Mom gesture enthusiastically. Same scam, different country. My phone buzzed. Gideon. Are you sure about this? It's not too late to stop. I ignored the message, focusing on Mom's table. One of the investors was already pulling out his checkbook. Now, I said to Tiffany. She pressed a button on her phone. Across the restaurant, Mom's phone rang. She excused herself and stepped away from the table. Hello, she answered. Mrs. Myers, Tiffany disguised her voice perfectly. This is Sandra from First National Bank's fraud department. We're calling about some suspicious transactions. I watched Mom's face pale as Tiffany spun her tale about investigations and frozen accounts. By the time she hung up, her hands were shaking. Showtime, I whispered, standing up. Gemma, Mom's voice pitched higher when she saw me approaching. What a surprise. I was just having lunch with some old friends. Old friends like Marcus? I smiled coldly. The same Marcus who helped you run investment scams in 3 states. The investors at the table stopped talking, looking between us. Darling, you're confused. Mom laughed nervously. We were just discussing some potential business opportunities. Like the fake contracts you stole from my study. I pulled out my phone, showing the security footage of her photographing documents. Or maybe the forged signatures you've been practicing. Marcus stood up quickly. I should go. Sit down, I snapped. You're going to want to hear this too. The restaurant had grown quiet, other diners watching the drama unfold. Mom's perfect mask was cracking. These people deserve to know who they're really dealing with, I continued, my voice carrying. Should I tell them about Singapore, about the millions you stole, or about how you cleaned out your own daughter's bank account just last week? That's not. I was going to pay it back, Mom stammered. Like you paid back the others? The families you destroyed, the lives you ruined. One of the investors stood up, gathering his papers. I think we're done here. Wait, Mom grabbed his arm. I can explain everything. But they were already leaving, muttering about calling their lawyers. Marcus tried to slip away, but Tiffany blocked his path. The police would love to chat with you two, she said sweetly. Right outside, Mom collapsed into her chair, her carefully constructed world crumbling. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this to me? Why? I leaned close, letting her see all the years of pain and betrayal in my eyes. Because you taught me well, Mother. You taught me that family means nothing when there's money to be made. You taught me that trust is just another tool for manipulation. I'm your mother. No, I cut her off. You're a con artist who happened to give birth to me, and now everyone knows it. As if on cue, 2 police officers entered the restaurant. Mom's eyes darted around, looking for escape routes. Don't worry, I said, stepping back. They're not here for you yet. Consider this a preview of coming attractions. I turned to leave, but her voice stopped me. I really was going to pay you back this time, she said softly. I really was trying to change. For a moment, I almost believed her almost. I fell for the trembling lip, the tears, the perfect performance of a repentant mother. Almost. Goodbye, Mom, I said, walking away. Enjoy the master suite while you can. The real show hasn't even started yet. The security feed showed Mom pacing in the master suite, making frantic phone calls. It had been 3 days since the restaurant incident, and her world was collapsing piece by piece. Another investor filed a police report. That makes 4, Tiffany announced, walking into my office. And Marcus? I asked, not looking away from the screen. Singing like a canary. Turns out he kept records of everything, including Singapore. My phone lit up with Mom's 20th call attempt of the day. This time, I answered. Gemma, please, she started, her voice cracking. We need to talk. Come to my office in 1 hour. I hung up and texted Gideon. It's time. Mom arrived exactly on time, wearing the same designer outfit from her first day back, but now it looked rumpled, like she'd slept in it. Sit, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. Darling, I know you're angry. Angry? I laughed, pulling out a folder. Let's talk about angry. Here's a statement from your Singapore victims. A family of 5 who lost everything. The father had a heart attack. When he discovered what you'd done, she flinched. I didn't know, or how about this? I pulled out another document. The elderly couple in Miami who had to sell their home, or the single mom in Chicago who lost her children's college fund. Stop, she whispered. Why isn't this what you wanted to discuss? Your greatest hits? I spread the papers across the desk. And let's not forget your latest masterpiece, stealing from your own daughter. I was desperate. The investment opportunity was a scam, I finished, just like everything else in your life. She stood up, pacing. What do you want from me, Gemma? An apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. No, you're sorry you got caught. I pressed a button on my phone, and the office TV flickered to life, showing security footage from the master suite. Sorry, I said. I recorded every phone call, every meeting, every attempt to set up new cons. Mom's face went white. You've been watching me? Learning from the best, I smiled. Isn't that what you always wanted for me? To follow in your footsteps? The police already have copies of everything, along with statements from your old victims, Marcus's records, and evidence of your latest attempt at scams. She collapsed back into the chair. Why? I'm your mother. Exactly. You were supposed to protect me, nurture me. Instead, you taught me that love is just another tool for manipulation. I stood up, walking around the desk. But Grandma taught me something too. About karma, about consequences. What are you going to do? I handed her an envelope. Inside is a one-way ticket to a small town in Montana. There's also money for 6 months' rent on a modest apartment. Montana? She looked horrified. But my life is here. Your life of cons is over. Take the ticket. Disappear. Start fresh or don't, and I'll release everything to the media. Your choice. You wouldn't. I pulled out my phone, showing her the draft email to every major news outlet. Try me. Tears rolled down her face. Real ones this time, not the calculated drop she usually deployed. I really did love you, in my own way. I know, that's why I'm giving you a chance to walk away, more than you gave your other victims. The office door opened, and Gideon walked in, car ready. Mom looked between us, clutching the envelope. When? Now. Gideon will drive you to the airport. She stood shakily, then reached for her designer purse. That stays, I said, along with everything else from the master suite. You start fresh or not at all. For a moment, I saw the real her, the scared woman behind the confident facade. She stepped toward me, arms raised for a hug, but I stepped back. Goodbye, Mom. She nodded once, tears still falling, and followed Gideon out. Tiffany came in after they left, holding 2 glasses of wine. You okay? I took a glass, watching through the window as Gideon's car pulled away. Did I just become her, using her own tricks against her? No, Tiffany said firmly. You gave her a chance to start over. That's more than she ever gave anyone else. My phone buzzed. A text from Gideon. She's in the car, still crying. Real tears. It's really over, I whispered. Not quite, Tiffany said, pulling out Grandma's journal. There's still one more page you haven't read. I'd opened it to the marked page, seeing Grandma's familiar handwriting one last time. Remember, my dear, revenge might satisfy for a moment, but forgiveness liberates forever. The choice is yours. I closed the journal, thinking about Mom's tears, about karma and consequences, about the thin line between justice and vengeance. The choice was mine, but what would I choose? The small cafe in Montana looked exactly like it did in the surveillance photos. Through the window, I watched Mom wipe down tables, her designer clothes replaced by a simple black uniform. You sure about this? Gideon asked from the driver's seat. No, I admitted. But Grandma was right about forgiveness, even if Mom doesn't deserve it. Want me to come in? I shook my head. This is something I need to do alone. The bell chimed as I entered. Mom's back was to me as she restocked sugar packets. We're closing in 10 minutes, she said without turning around. Hello, Mom. She froze, then slowly turned. Gone was the perfect makeup, the calculated charm. She looked real. Gemma, her voice cracked. How did you find me? I never lost you, I sat at the counter. Coffee, please. Black. Her hands shook as she poured the cup. Are you here to check if I'm running cons again? No. The weekly reports from the private investigator do that. I took a sip. I'm here because of this. I pulled out an envelope and slid it across the counter. Inside were dozens of letters, all addressed to me, all returned unopened. You got them, she whispered. All 23. I just couldn't read them until yesterday. Mom gripped the counter, and I believe you about wanting to change, about being sorry. I pulled out another envelope. So I brought you something. She opened it carefully, gasping when she saw the contents. Grandma's silver mirror. The real one, this time, not the replica from the master suite. Why? Because healing has to start somewhere. I met her eyes, but there are conditions. She sat down heavily. Of course. First, you stay here. Keep working. Keep building an honest life. I pulled out a folder. Second, you help me make things right with your victims, starting with the family in Singapore. How? I've set up a restitution fund from the hotel profits. You'll contribute 20% of your salary. It won't fix everything, but it's a start. Tears welled in her eyes. Genuine ones, like at the office that day. And what about us? That's the third condition. I took a deep breath. Complete honesty. No more cons. No more manipulation. Just truth. even if it hurts, especially then. She touched the mirror gently. Did I ever tell you why I started running cons? No. Your father, she paused. He left us with nothing. I was 22, with a baby and empty bank accounts. I promised myself no one would ever make me feel that helpless again. So, you made others feel helpless instead. She flinched. Yes, and somewhere along the way, I forgot the difference between protecting myself and hurting others, including you. The cafe's lights flickered. Closing time. I have to go, I said, standing. But I'll be back next month, if you want to check on me, to have coffee, to talk. She came around the counter, stopping just short of reaching for me. I don't deserve a second chance. No, I agreed. But I deserve the chance to heal, and maybe this is how it starts. I walked to the door, then turned back. Oh, and Mom, happy birthday. Her hand flew to her mouth. You remembered. I remember everything, the good and the bad. That's what makes this so hard and so important. Outside, Gideon was waiting. How'd it go? I looked back through the window. Mom was holding Grandma's mirror, crying quietly. She's different, I said. Really different. People can change, he said softly, if they want to badly enough. My phone buzzed. A text from Tiffany. Did you give her the mirror? Yes, I typed back, and maybe something more important. A chance. I reflected on Grandma's final comments in her notebook as we drove away, about repercussions and karma. Yes, but choice is also important. About making the decision to end cycles rather than continue them. You know, Gideon remarked as we drove along the highway, your grandmother would be proud. About putting Mom in exile, of offering her a way to turn her life around. She gave herself more than that. I reached into my pocket and felt the one letter I had saved. Mom's most recent one, which detailed her modest apartment, her first honest salary, and her attempts to make apologies. Perhaps destroying someone wasn't the goal of retaliation. Perhaps it was about making them confront themselves at times, to alter, to develop. And that transformation could, just might, be the cure for us both. As I saw the cafe fade away in the rearview mirror, I remarked, let's go home. We've got work to do. A family in Singapore was about to receive an unexpected letter of apology and the first of many contributions to make amends, and the restitution fund wouldn't grow on its own. Although it wasn't a flawless conclusion, it was a start.